I do, some people train every day with over-the-top devotion, only to burn out prematurely, break down before expected, or even die in the act, while others grow stronger and stronger, sustained over the long haul. What's going on anyway? Hi, I'm Janet, longtime fitness coach, national champion bodybuilder, and wellness advocate, who's watched too many strong bodies wear out from overtraining, one at a time. And I'm not excluding my own urge to overachieve. So today, we're going to cover 3 truths about recovery after age 50 through story, along with some stats, so you can train for longevity, not just applause. Somewhere along the way, relentlessly heroic effort has become a virtue in our culture, hasn't it? I mean, even if it meant ignoring the body's quiet pleading, even at the cost of it being fatal. We glorify pushing through one more rep, go heavy or go home. While on the other hand, a man who trained regularly and wisely all through his adulthood, allowing his body to recover with respect, lived to be 95 with power in his legs and light in his eyes. He had the privilege to die doing what he loved, living. This dichotomy has been on my mind lately. I'm not here to pick sides or to create a charged debate about who's right and who's the stronger side, who's weak. I'm just mulling this over out loud with you. There is merit to both ends. And without judgment, I wanted to unpack these thoughts sometime soon with you guys. So this morning, I knew today was the day to talk about it because there was a news story about a community icon living on the East Coast, someone who was still teaching special education in his 70s. Obviously a stellar individual of high character and very much loved because he was a hero to his students. His other even larger passion, though, was running and cycling long distances. Ultra marathon trophies, ribbons marking achievements of hundreds of miles of cycling, lean, tan, and fast at age 74. I mean, he was amazing and he was absolutely conditioned and in shape. He wasn't just a weekend warrior who went out and plowed into a wall somewhere. He was prepared. Everyone loved and respected him. They were inspired, and yet he died without making a sound at a country crossroad. His heart gave out, and the humidity and the exhaustion that came with it. He died doing what he loved. Everyone said it. There it was again. He even said at some point that someone asked him about his drive and why. And he just said he hoped he'd be lucky enough someday to die doing what he loved. He got his wish. It was what he wanted. Now, I read this news story immediately after closing my journal that I write in every morning. And I'm reading this Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. Usually when I journal, I read a passage. Sometimes it triggers something in myself that I want to write about. Sometimes it just kind of gets me in the zone and I write about something completely different. But today in the Destiny is Discipline book, the chapter was called Manage the Load. And it's a story about different sports coaches in the high-end sports of NFL and NBA who understood that it was important to have a modicum of control and moderation, even in the crazy high stakes sports world, to have his star players sit out a game or two, much to the chagrin of the fans, because he knew that the next couple of weeks were going to be against their hardest opponent. And he wanted his star athlete to be rested and not get injured. So now I'm getting this message about recovery and overtraining in stereo. And then in my journal, I was writing, and it brought to mind one of my former clients who is in his early 70s and would play pickleball in the blazing Arizona sun for 2 hours every morning, at least 6 days a week. And he would strength train with me 2 or 3 days a week after that grueling pickleball session. Clearly, he was already spent coming in the door, but he hydrated, toweled off, and let's get after it. Devoted, determined. I tried. It's hard with adults. We're not children. But I tried to caution him about recovery and the cost of muscle gains at this pace. Yes, he wanted to get stronger. Yes, he wanted to build muscle. And he would get kind of annoyed with me and tell me that he was different. And until his knee blew out and he came into a battle with cancer, that the narrative began to change. To be clear, he didn't have a knee blowout with me. He had it at home mowing the lawn because he had been doing all the pickleball and the training, and it was really too much for someone who's in their early 70s. But the mindset that rest is weakness runs deeper than any tendon ever thought of. Age and mortality are bearing down on him. They're bearing down on us, along with the idea in his mind of what it meant to be a man. Tough. John Wayne. Rest when you're dead. It's one of the ways we humans deal with mortality. I see it all the time, and I even catch myself doing things sometimes that would fall into that category. So we fall into this mindset of the grind no matter what, even though he said he wanted to be stronger and add muscle. It wasn't ever going to happen at that pace in anything that way. Disrespecting the body's processes and needs in the name of public virtue looks heroic. They get plenty of accolades for it, but make no mistake, it has a cost. The thing for us to do as individuals is to decide which cost we're willing to pay. He thought he was making a noble trade. And sometimes discipline is just addiction dressed in athletic wear. I say this with empathy because I've done it too. In the past, I've trained through fatigue, ignored the whispers of my body. I've chased after the badge of toughness. And I actually did so much cardio for my second competition, which was, 15 years ago. But I still remember how mad I was because I worked so hard to build muscle. But I did so much cardio that I lost muscle and became catabolic after all that work, being in menopause at the same time, which makes it even harder to put on muscle. I had no business overtraining the way I did. And the cost was the results. I didn't even place that time because I had lost too much muscle. So I know firsthand that push and pull of wanting to prove to the world and to myself that I'm invincible, I'm aging backwards, I'm tougher than ever, and rest when you die. It ended up being pretty pointless. To be clear, recovery is not retreat. Rest is where the gains take root. That's the part you don't see posted online. Taking a day off doesn't make for a compelling Instagram reel. I can't emphasize this enough. Muscle doesn't grow while it's working. And if it's working and working and working and working, guess what's not happening? Growing. All that's happening is damage, damage, damage. A little bit of rest because you're human, but not enough rest for the muscle to regain and to grow. Muscle grows during recovery time, sleep, taking a bye day, changing the pace for a period of time strategically. I feel firmly standing in the in-betweens on this because motivations for each of us vary in everything. If we're lucky, we have the freedom to make our own choices in this matter. Do you want to be someone who does the David Goggins push through no matter what, do or die because you could die? Or is it more the moderation approach where we acknowledge we're going to die someday, but the life is longer and of higher quality because we're healthy? It is very subjective. And like I say, it's not right or wrong. It's a tendency that kind of has to be policed a little bit. So let's look at 3 truths I live by now that have made all the difference in this tug of war. I'm going to tell you what I figured out just to share that with you. So it's valuable. It's a valuable aspect of aging. It just deserves some consideration. Number 1 smart thing I figured out: recovery is not a break from training. Recovery is training. Muscle growth happens during rest. So you've got the stimulus, and then you've got the little growth period, and then stimulus and growth period. But if it's just stimulus, 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 and no rest, no progress. And on top of that, your nervous system, the whole system that fires your muscles, the electricity, that whole system needs a break too, to be able to reset so that it doesn't get frazzled and fried. So you know that stress and inflammation in a very short, intense burst, the response to that is growth and healing. That's a good thing. I mean, we know from all the stuff we read and know about job stress or family stress or financial stress, that background, low-grade, grinding stress that just eats away, that has no rest, that's the one that causes all the damage, causes disease and illness. Same thing with the way we work out. So that grinding of regular inflammation is not helpful for if your goal is to grow muscle. The second idea that I learned that is far more nuanced. The first one, I could see that it was true after a time. I didn't believe it, but then I saw that my muscles grew when I followed that idea of toggling on and off and not just constantly being on. So fine, I'll accept that. But this one's a tough pill to swallow. You don't have to prove your worth solely through effort. The ego wants a show. The body wants a future. And the third one is temperance is wisdom. You can go heavy and go home, but the way people say it is go heavy or go home. And I say go heavy and go home. Because if you want to go heavier next week and you don't go home, it's not going to happen. Or if you try, you're going to risk injury and you just won't have the stamina or the building blocks ready to go into place when you go to lift heavy. So the real equation is effort plus recovery equals strength. You lose the recovery, you lose the equation. Now, full disclosure, some of you have asked me to explain how this philosophy actually shapes a real training plan. So here's a quick sidebar on how I structure things now using macro and mesocycles. Somebody literally asked me in the comments, how do I do macro and mesocycles? And what does it mean? So here it is. A macrocycle is a bird's eye view of about 6 to 12 months in the future. Think of it like seasons of the year: preparation, build, peak, recover. You don't stay in one mode forever because your body isn't built for that. So a macro cycle becomes clearer when you have a gnarly goal a year or so from now. You plot it out, you create some aspirational deadlines, you hire an expert coach maybe to keep you on track and help you adjust your goals in real time as they make sense. So that's what the whole macro cycle is. The mesocycle is your monthly blocks. So you might spend 4 weeks focused on muscle endurance, and then shift into strength and power lifts, and then a week or two on mobility and flexibility, and then a few weeks to deload and go a little bit easier and let yourself recover and then come back in. So there's a more of a closer view. So that's macro, 6 to 12 months, big plan, chunky goals. And the mesocycle is, what do you do week by week, or like maybe in chunks of a few weeks to get to that end. It's a really great way to solve any problem, really, any big problem, but it also works with building muscle. I mean, personally, after a stage competition, the ramp up, the push, the intensity, the stage, the euphoria, after that, I take an entire week off from the gym. I sleep, I get massages, I stretch, I do yoga nidra, I eat nourishing, albeit richer in calories diet, and my body loves it. And before very long, I am so ready. I'm like fire. I am ready to pop back into the squat rack, bursting with new energy and greater power. And that feels great. And nobody in my world who does this would say, slacking off, huh? They're like, good for you. What did you do during your little break? You know, it's like we compare notes. Oh, I went to the beach. It's kind of a funny little odd thing that we talk about. And a lot of times during that rest, this is the weird part. I wasn't prepared. I come back in and fat test, do all my metrics to start in again. And during that period of time where I was flat on my back, relaxing, having a really good fish taco and maybe a beer, absolutely forbidden during training season, I come back and I have gained muscle and lost fat because my metabolism is so revved up, and it just gave my body a chance to do something with all that stimulation. So it really is, it's a real thing. You're not falling behind when you take a step back. You're planting the seeds for the next step forward. So what if the real flex at age 75, not far in the future for me, is not crossing the finish line every single week? It's waking up clear-headed, knees intact, and ready to dance with your grandkids. I mean, what if managing the load isn't quitting, but mastering? So I'm not here to tell you to slack off on training. No, train hard. Absolutely. But I'm here to encourage you to train for your own life experience. Be clear on what you love. Be clear on what you would die for, with presence and influence that lasts as long as it can. So if this message stirred something in you, leave a comment. Tell me what you're learning to let go of and what you're learning to hold with more care. Because this conversation, we need to have it out loud. And I wanted to have it with you today. I want to close with a sentence from the end of the chapter that I read this morning when I was journaling. This is in Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday in the chapter Manage the Load. The most surefire way to make yourself more fragile, to cut your career short, your life short, is to be undisciplined about rest and recovery, to push yourself too hard, too fast, to overtrain, and to pursue the false economy of overwork. Manage the load.